Well, thank you. And if it seems like there might be a dog in this hunt on the other side, what you need to understand is that Mr. Goldman, the novice representative from New York, actually does have a personal stake in this case. He has stated that he has been involved with the Bragg case, helping to prepare Mr. Cohen for his testimony. So he is quite closely aligned with an admitted and convicted liar and perjurer. He's also paid the Judge Merchant's daughter's firm over $150,000 for her services. So I think we've got quite a conflict of interest from Mr. Dan Goldman, the novice representative from New York. And just one other thing to keep in mind when considering the hostility from the folks on the other side of this aisle is that the ranking member of this
Mr. Chair, I would move to have that
was Jeffrey Epstein's
from the record, to have
fixer.
that phrase taken down.
The ranking member was Jeffrey Epstein's fixer. So I think that might give you some idea of why you see this hostility.
Hang on,
statements be taken down.
Related the ranking
Mr.
members
Goldman.
recognized.
I would ask that the statements regarding the conflict of interest related to Mr. Goldman be stricken down from the record. Engaging in personal personalities.
In your 14-minute and 14-second opening statement, you called the former president, current candidate for the office of president of the United States, all kinds of names. I think
he's not a member of this
I understand
committee,
he's not a member,
and
but
that's what I'm asking.
A former president. What I'm saying is we should all be careful about it. I think the gentlelady from Wyoming was just stating facts that are in the news report.
She accused him of a conflict of interest on the committee during the hearing. I ask that that be stricken down.
Gentlelady's point of order is overruled. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Hamilton, would you agree that gag orders on trial participants were created with the intent of securing a defendant's right to a fair trial and ensure efficient administration of justice?
It's precisely correct. And it's in fact usually intended to prevent the prosecution from making extrajudicial statements that are going to be prejudicial to the defendant's rights.
And Mr. Trustee, I think that you testified that in all of your years of experience, you've never seen a circumstance where a defendant had a gag order imposed against them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would it be fair to say that while such an order is intended to guarantee a defendant's Sixth Amendment right, it also at certain times could raise First Amendment issues?
It does.
Okay. In Bragg's political persecution of Donald Trump, Judge Merchant instituted an unconstitutional gag order against the defendant, President Trump. Yet Judge Merchant has levied no such order against any of the other trial participants, like Michael Cohen, who continue to publicly attack Mr. Trump. Mr. Hamilton, is the gag order issued by Judge Merchant a significant departure from the normal order of business? And does it reveal the First and Sixth Amendment tensions which underlie this case?
Most certainly does.
Okay. And why does President Trump face such a legally questionable gag order in this case? Well, simply put, it's because it is a classic example of lawfare being employed by Democrats against their political opponent, weaponizing the various branches and levels of government, something that we have seen in the last 8 years that has been absolutely shocking to the conscience. DA Bragg resurrected a zombie case and is using a novel legal theory which has not even been explained to the defendant or the jury. He selected Matthew Colangelo as lead prosecutor, a former Biden DOJ official and DNC consultant, and Judge Merchant, who made campaign donations to President Biden and the Democrat Party during the 2020 election, and whose daughter's firm worked for the Biden and now Harris campaigns, is overseeing the case and imposing speech restrictions on a person Judge Merchant called, quote, possibly the next president of the United States. Judge Merchant went so far in the last 2 weeks as threatening to jail a former president and presumptive major party nominee for violating an order which infringes on his free speech rights. Writing in The Federalist, Tom Christ analyzes how lawfare offers benefits and a means of victory regardless of the outcome of the courtroom, which is causing as much pain as possible and treating the defendant like an enemy versus the defendant. I want that to sink in. Watching Judge Merchant, it is very apparent that he is treating President Trump as an enemy, not a party and not a defendant. Mr. Hamilton, do you think the gag order falls into this playbook and serves an additional lawfare benefit for the left in that it can be used to enact an even larger legal burden on Donald Trump for simply exercising his right to free speech?
Yes, I do. And in fact, quite frankly, when you have a gag order like that, or when you have abuses of processes like this, as my colleagues have alluded to before, the pain in the process is the goal. That's really the goal here. Whether they get a conviction, whether they get any kind of civil fine or judgment, it's not necessarily the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective is to cause pain to the political opponent, and that's what they're doing to Donald Trump.
One of the things that I have observed as an attorney who was a trial attorney for 34 years, is that Judge Merchan is making such blatant reversible errors. He absolutely knows that if there is a conviction in this case, it will be reversed on appeal. And it's as though he is attempting to do that because he knows that no such appeal would actually take place prior to November, yet he would have a conviction on the books, which is the classic, and I think in this case exposes the way in which they are using lawfare against President Biden, or against President Trump. I have never seen a judge make the kind of errors that this judge has made in this case before. And I think he recognizes that if there is a conviction, it would be overturned on appeal. That is what our justice system has turned into because of the lawfare being waged by the Democrats. It has to end. Thank you for being here, and with that, I yield back.